What is a glitch? Today I wanted to create this video to once and for all have everyone on the same page of knowledge. I've seen way too many divergent definitions of what a glitch is in the past, so I took many different ones as an experiment for fun. I went to a forum on speedrun.com and asked everyone out there to define me what was a glitch. To sum it up, the first answer I got was,
for me, I think a glitch is anytime you can use intended mechanics to achieve an unintended result.
And the second answer I got was directed to the first answer, saying,
I don't agree with that definition of glitch.
Yeah, you see the point. The second part of my experiment was to go ask a couple of streamers to define me what was a glitch. Here are their answers.
Could I define what a glitch is? I guess a glitch would be taking advantage of shortcomings in the game's code in order to gain an advantage that the game developers didn't foresee or intend to. That would be what a glitch is.
Can I define what's a glitch? I feel like the best way to describe a glitch is anything that confuses the natural process of the game. So like clipping through the walls in Mario 3 is not a glitch because you're not confusing the game. The game is doing that as an intention. Like if you did that, the game knows what to do when you do that. So it processes you to clip through the wall. Anything that confuses the programming and the game altogether, like the game's, it's a glitch, it's confused.
The definition of a glitch is something in the game that doesn't work correctly as the developers intended. I don't know, like the definition of a glitch is different between games.
As you can see, all definitions have different approaches to what is a glitch. If I have never heard the word glitch before, maybe one definition could help me believe I understand what a glitch is, but I would quickly get confused when realizing that nobody has the same definition of it. Disclaimer: the purpose of this video is to only interfere in the nomenclature of discussions that involves the word glitch, and not if it should be banned in glitchless categories of speedrunning. An analogy for this would be something like, imagine two people talking about whether or not they should eat this apple as it's getting really rotten. Well, in this scenario, I would be the one coming up and saying, hey guys, I just want to mention that that's actually a banana. Okay, bye. You see, my intervention only interferes in the nomenclature and not on the question of whether or not they should eat that rotten fruit. One thing that is for sure though, is that throughout every single individual that answered this question for my experiment, everyone would agree on at least one thing. A glitch is something not intended by the developers. But what if I told you that this definition in computer science is actually the definition of a bug? Would that mean that a bug and a glitch are the same thing? Is there any difference? Well, there is a distinction between the two. A bug in computer science is any implementation's behavior that is not intended by the developer. During the development process of any software, including video games, programmers will find millions of bugs and will try to patch them with variable amounts of success each time. Bugs can be something very hard to patch out, really. So what's the difference between a bug and a glitch then? Well, a glitch is a very specific type of bug. You see, there are many different types of bugs when you program something. Bugs can take many different shapes, from a compiling error to a logic error to a unit level bug and so on. The relationship between a bug and a glitch is exactly the same as the one between a fruit and an apple. An apple is a fruit, however a fruit is not necessarily an apple. Funnily enough, if everyone in the gaming community switched their vocabulary and used the word bug instead of glitch, everyone would be technically correct and this video wouldn't exist. Pop quiz. POV number 1. You're playing The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Japanese version 1.0. You try to hit with the hammer and try to run both at the same time. What happens? You will end up in a state where Link is holding his hammer and running at the same time, shooting the hammer hitbox in front of him along his way. POV number 2. Again in the same game. You find the very first corner as you start the game, do a couple of very precise movement tricks, and fall off the lower layer, allowing you to finish the game in a minute. Now my question is, which of the two is a glitch? Before we answer the question, let's finally see exactly what a glitch is. Here's a logic gate diagram I paid way too much for when I was at university and that you are getting for free right now. This diagram is the ideal definition of a glitch. You may not like it, but this is what peak glitchy performance looks like. Probably not everyone can understand this diagram, so let's put into words about what this is all about. These are called logic gates. They are what your computer uses for logic using ones and zeros. By the way, ones and zeros are just electricity. Whenever a gate receives high electricity, it takes it as a 1, and low electricity means a 0. The diagram goes from left to right. This one is called a NOT gate. Whenever a 1 comes to it, it changes it to become a 0 or vice versa. This one is called an OR gate. It outputs a 1 if there is at least a 1 that comes through it. Otherwise, it will output a 0. And this one is called an AND gate. It can only output a 1 if all the gates attached to it are also 1s. Otherwise, it will output a 0. Now, if we read this diagram from left to right, we take the inputs A equals 0, B equals 1, and C equals 1. You can also see that A goes through a NOT gate and thus becomes a 1. Now, B is a 1 and splits into 2 paths. The top path goes through the NOT gate, and thus the next gate, an AND gate, outputs a 0. However, the second path of B goes through another AND gate as a 1, and since C is also a 1, the gate outputs a 1. For the last gate, an OR gate, since the bottom path gives a 1, the very final output is also a 1. Now, if you change B from a 1 to a 0 and repeat the whole process, you would realize the final output is also a 1. This time not because the bottom path gives a 1, but because the top path does. But what does all of that have to do with a glitch? Let's see. We know that when A equals 0, B equals 1, and C equals 1, the final output of this system, shown here by the letter Y, will be a 1. We also know that if we switch B from a 1 to a 0, the system will also output a 1. But what happens in the system during the change? Here's a 4-step slow motion of what happens in real life inside of your computer. Did you see that? For a split second, the final output was not a 1, but a 0. Even though both inputs should give an output of 1, the switch between the two gave an output of 0 for a fraction of a second. That is a glitch. It is a glitch because the system should never output a 0 at any moment during the transition. Say we switch B back from a 0 to a 1, the whole time the output will be a 1. It is only when B goes from a 1 to a 0 that it behaves abnormally for a nanosecond. Now, you're probably thinking, that's all cool and all, thanks for the confusing video, but what does this all have to do with video games now? Well, video games and everything inside of the world of computers uses these logic gates. This diagram just showed a switch between the two gates that would normally always output a 1 at all times. However, it outputted a 0 during a very short period of time and may allow for unintended things to happen. Now, you might wonder, how can I suspect that something is a glitch in my video game and not just another bug? Let's see. First, by how fast all of this happens, a glitch will always be a one-frame trick. Be careful though. The opposite is not necessarily true. A glitch is always a one-frame trick, but a frame 1 trick is not necessarily a glitch. Second, in the universe of video games, this particular behavior will mostly translate into unexpected game states. Because a logic gate usually allows or prevents you from accessing a game state, a glitch can grant you access for the duration of 1 frame to 2 completely different game states that you're not supposed to access at the same time. A game state, by the way, or character state, for example, in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is a sword swing or a roll or a C-stick action, grabbing an item, talking to somebody, jump sideways, you name it. The idea is that once you perform one of these actions, you will get into a state that prevents you from accessing any other game state. You cannot, for instance, do a sword swing and grab an item at the same time because the game prevents you access to grab a rock when you swing your sword. A glitch, however, can allow the combination of these two mutually exclusive game states. Glitches are very hazardous, and mixing a glitched game state with other normal game states or even other glitches can snowball quickly into a huge mess. And this, by the way, is one of the secrets of finding completely broken stuff in video games. Trying to access 2 states at once, and if succeeded, messing around with the other game states and seeing what happens. The more game states a game has, the more potential glitches you can find. This is why franchises like Metroid or The Legend of Zelda tend to have more glitches than any other in their game, because of how many game states they have, because it's difficult or even impossible for the developers and the testers to try every single combination of the two states. Now, back to the question, which of these two situations is a glitch and which one is not? Now that you know a little bit more about the subject, you guessed it. It's the first one. Even though the second situation completely breaks the game and allows you to walk directly to the Triforce within the first minute after you started the game, the first one goes along with the definition of what a glitch is, where two mutually exclusive game states are accessed at the same time. You usually cannot use your hammer when you try to run, and you cannot run when you try to use your hammer. 2, the trick has a 1 frame window. And 3, the result in this situation is a very aesthetic mix of the two states you try to access at once. The second example is not a glitch. Even though it needs frame perfect inputs, it fails at trying to access two mutually exclusive game states at once. The game simply does not push you at all if you wiggle into a corner diagonally 1 frame at a time. However, it is nonetheless one of the biggest exploits in the history of video games that allows you to skip the entire game. So that's it. Hope you liked this video and hope that it shed a light onto the definition of what is a glitch. So now you can argue over banning a bug you found, or an exploit, or a skip, or sometimes a real glitch, or any new term you can think of to describe your findings. Take care. Hey, you can put this in the video if you want or not. I really don't care. But hey, I'm Allston, Patti. Voice. No, I'm not. Never mind. I'm not even gonna do that.